Hey everybody. So we're now at the All-Star break. We have the skills competition tonight, the All-Star game tomorrow. Um, what better time to look back at my season predictions, my standings predictions from the beginning of the season and see how I'm faring to this point in the year with every team playing around 50 games, give or take a couple. Um, there's still plenty of hockey left. There's still a good chunk of the season to go. February and March are very, very important months in the NHL before we get to the playoffs in April. But, a good chunk of the season has also been played already. We have a pretty good idea of who's good and who's not. So let's look at my predictions from the beginning of the season. And if you want to go back and watch my video from the beginning of the year on my season predictions, I'm going to post just a card up in the corner up there somewhere where you guys can just click on that and go and watch that video if you would like. However, I do have my beginning of the season predictions drawn out here. I went back, looked at the video, and recreated my predictions. This is what I thought the standings were going to look like in each division. Now I'm going to go through the current standings and see how close or how wrong I was. And believe me, in a lot of these situations, I was very, very wrong. So let's start in the Atlantic Division. So I had Tampa Bay finishing in first place. And, hey, lo and behold, who's in first place right now? Tampa Bay. So there was a correct one, at least to this point in the year, and it really doesn't look like anyone's going to be catching Tampa Bay. They are running away with it right now, 76 points already, 37, 10, and 2. I don't think anyone's catching Tampa Bay. I had Toronto in second, and guess who is in the second place in the Atlantic? Toronto. I guess I was right about that one too, although Toronto does not have much of a cushion. Montreal is right behind them with 61 points. Toronto has 62. Boston has 59. So Toronto is not guaranteed that second spot. However, they are in it right now. I had Boston finishing in third, and they currently are not. The Montreal Canadiens are. Montreal I had finishing all the way down in sixth behind Florida and Buffalo, and Montreal has been an impressive team for me this year. They've been a lot better than I thought they would be. And it's been a strong year to this point for the Canadiens, so I've been impressed with them. I had Florida finishing in fourth and snagging a wild card playoff spot. Boston is currently in fourth. Now, Boston is only 1 point behind Montreal, and they have 2 games in hand, so that the Boston-Montreal could flip-flop very, very easily. All Boston needs to do is win one of those games in hand, and that standings flip-flop there. But if Florida, nowhere to be seen towards the top of the standings. They've been one of the bigger disappointments in my mind this year. I thought they'd be a playoff team this year. They have been not even close to that. I had Buffalo in fifth, and guess who's in fifth right now? The Buffalo Sabres. So I guess the Atlantic Division, sure, I got Florida and Montreal flip-flopped, wrong about that. But for the most part, I've been pretty close with the Atlantic Division. Buffalo is in fifth, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. They currently have 54 points. Out of the playoffs at the moment, but not by much. So we'll see what they can do the rest of the year. I had Montreal in sixth. They're currently in third, so that's obviously not the case. Sixth belongs to the Florida Panthers, who I thought, again, would be much better this season, but they just haven't been. Losing Vincent Trocheck for as long as they did was just an absolute... And they weren't playing great before he got injured, but losing him really just killed their season. Taking an important player like that out of the lineup just absolutely killed their season. And then after that, the bottom 2 teams I did get exactly right. Detroit finishing 7th and Ottawa in 8th. That's where they both sit right now. So Detroit and Ottawa, correctly, I predicted would be the worst 2 teams in the Atlantic, and that has been the case. Montreal been a lot better than expected. Florida really disappointing. Everything else kind of falls about in line with what I expected. So let's move on over to the Metro here, because the Metro, not at all what I expected. As much as I understood the Atlantic going into this year, I very greatly misunderstood the Metro division. I had Pittsburgh in first place. Pittsburgh is currently in fourth. First place belongs to the New York Islanders. And honestly, who the hell saw that coming? I had the Islanders finishing seventh. They weren't supposed to be good this year. Barry Trotz, incredible coaching job. Players playing out of their minds. Great goaltending. Complete turnaround defensively. The Islanders are the real deal, and they look really, really good. I had This looks bad. This looks really bad. I had Philadelphia finishing second in the Metro this year. How gross is that? I had Philly finishing second. Well, I can tell you right now, Philly, borderline last place. They're only out of last place by a point. And second place currently belongs to the Washington Capitals, who I had finishing third. They're up into second. Really on a 7-game losing streak right now. Really tough times going for the Capitals into the All-Star break, but they're still holding pat in second place and 3 points behind the Islanders for first. Philly, what a disaster. I mean, there's talent on that roster. They brought in JVR back again in the offseason. I looked at that team and I saw a winner there. That talent has not worked out at all. It's been a disastrous season for the Flyers. Third place is the team that I had finishing in fourth, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus has had a very, very good season this year. Just did a couple videos on them, so if you want to go back and just go to the video page on my channel. And not too long ago, I did 2 videos on Columbus. They've impressed me this year. They've been a lot better than I thought they would be. And they look like a pretty much guaranteed a playoff team with the way that they've been playing. Fourth place belongs to the team that I thought would finish in first, and that's Pittsburgh. Man, I've doubted Pittsburgh, in the past, and I always get burned. I'm always like, this is the year Pittsburgh's going to drop off. This is the year the Penguins aren't going to be that great. And then they always finish top 2. This year going into it, I'm like, nah, every time I pick against Pittsburgh, they end up, being great, top 2 team. Usually, sometimes, well, not usually, Washington usually wins the division, but sometimes Pittsburgh's right up there with them. Or usually Pittsburgh's right up there with them. Sometimes Pittsburgh will win it. So I picked Pittsburgh to win it this year. They're a wild card team right now, and they haven't been all that great. They've had some very good stretches during the year. They've also had some very bad stretches. New Jersey, I thought would finish 5th, just out of the playoffs, and they have had a very, very bad season in New Jersey. They're currently in last place down there with Philly. 5th place currently belongs to the Carolina Hurricanes, who I had finishing 6th. But Carolina's having about what I expect, actually better than what I expected season this year. I thought they were going to be worse than this. I had high expectations for Carolina going into last year. They did not even come close to meeting those, so I pulled way back on my expectations for the Hurricanes, and they're actually kind of in the playoff hunt right now. They're 4 points out. They're a little bit behind, but they're still in the hunt. That leaves the New York Rangers behind Carolina, who I thought would finish dead last. That's not the case. And then Philly, who's in 7th, and New Jersey, who's finishing last. So, as you can see, I got quite a bit wrong in the Metro division. This division has been wild this year. Philly and New Jersey much worse than I thought they would be. Pittsburgh worse than I thought they would be. The Islanders better than I thought they would be. Columbus better than I thought they would be. Just a lot going on in this division. I got this division very, very wrong. Now let's switch over to the Western Conference, where in the Central Division, as I drop the board, I had Winnipeg winning. Winnipeg currently holds first place, so I guess I got that one right. At least it seems like that to this point. Although Nashville is tied with them in points, Winnipeg has 4 games in hand on Nashville. So it looks like Winnipeg. That's Winnipeg's division for the taking. Next, I had St. Louis, and boy, did I get that wrong. St. Louis has had a disastrous season this year. after the offseason they had and all the additions, the trades, the free agent signings, I hopped right on that Blues bandwagon. I was like, wow, this team is going to be a juggernaut. Look at the additions they made. This team is going places. I thought they'd finish second. They're currently in sixth, second to last place. While second place belongs to the Nashville Predators, who I had finishing third, but knew would be a very good team this year, and yes, they are. They're up in second. Third place, which I thought would be Nashville's, currently belongs to Minnesota, who had a really good start to the year, then went through a really tough stretch, but now have gotten back on track and are playing really good hockey again. So Minnesota's pulled themselves into a top 3 spot in that division. Dallas is in fourth, which is where I thought Minnesota would be. And Dallas in fifth. They've kind of moved up as St. Louis has dropped down. As you can see, I got the order the same. Nashville, Minnesota, Dallas is just, there's no St. Louis up there in second. St. Louis has dropped down. As Colorado, everyone knows about Colorado's top line. They're currently in fifth. Everyone knows about Colorado's top line and how good they are. My question with Colorado was the rest of the team good enough? And so far this season, they've had some really hot stretches and some really, really cold stretches. And it remains to be seen if Colorado is for sure a playoff team. We just don't know yet. They're right in that, right in the middle dog fight for a playoff spot with Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado, St. Louis, teams like that. We'll see how it all plays out. That leaves St. Louis way down in 6th. They've been obviously a huge disappointment. I thought they'd finish second. They're all the way down near the bottom. Huge, huge disappointment there. And then I was right about Chicago being last. So I was right about Winnipeg first and Chicago last. I got the order in the middle for the most part right. Nashville, Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado. However, I was very wrong about St. Louis. St. Louis is not in second. Drop them down to 6 and move everything else up exactly the way I had it. And you got your Central Division right now. And lastly, this video is getting long. I'm sorry about that, but it's hard to go through the entire league in a short amount of time. So lastly is the Pacific Division. I had the San Jose Sharks winning the Pacific. I don't think anyone saw this coming from the Calgary Flames. I knew... No, actually, I picked Calgary to not actually be that great. I thought the potential was there for Calgary to be better than they were last year. I wasn't banking on it, though, but I did not think they'd be this good. 71 points already, 33, 13, and 5. Absolutely incredible season so far for the Flames. I had them finishing down in, 6th? 5th? 5th. And they're up in first. Just outstanding year for the Calgary Flames. San Jose... I knew they'd be good. They're in second because Calgary's obviously had an outstanding year. How about them LA Kings, though? I can't believe I picked the Kings to finish second. That was so stupid. They were a wild card team at best, and they've been a lot worse than that this year. They're in dead last, near dead last. Actually, are they in dead last for the league? No, Ottawa's in dead last for the league, but only one point ahead of them is LA. LA's had a horrible, horrible season. Just awful. Vegas, I had finishing third, and Vegas finishes third. Wow. Can't even spell Vegas' abbreviation right. There we go. Vegas is in third, which is where I expected them to be. Going into the year, I knew Vegas wasn't going to be as good as they were last year. Last year was just something magical. It was special. It was incredible, but it wasn't going to happen again. Vegas got off to a really, really bad start this year, and it started to look like they might finish somewhere down here, but they've since turned it around. They've gotten back to looking like the team that they were last season. They're still a very good hockey team, and they're currently firmly in third place with 62 points. Not really no pressure from behind. The next team closest to them is Vancouver, and they're 10 points behind. No pressure from behind for Vegas. And they're probably not going to catch San Jose or Calgary, so it looks like they're pretty well entrenched in third place there. Fourth place is currently Vancouver, who I had finishing last. They have 52 points. They're well behind the top 3 in that division, but they are in fourth place and fighting for a wild card spot. And boy, it's been a much better than expected season for Vancouver. Elias Pettersson really has had a breakout year. Their young players are playing well, and they're just overall a better hockey team than I thought they would be. Edmonton, I had in Vancouver's fourth place spot. It's been a disastrous year for Edmonton. They're all the way down in second to last with LA. Just another awful year for the Oilers. Fired the coach, fired the GM. Maybe that will change things, but another awful year, much like last year for the Edmonton Oilers. Anaheim is currently behind Vancouver. And Anaheim was up in a playoff spot for much of this season, and then they lost 12 games in a row. And anytime you lose 12 games in a row in an NHL season, you're going to plummet in the standings, and that's what Anaheim did. However, before that 12-game losing streak, Anaheim was blowing away my expectations for that team. I thought they were going to be near the bottom of the division. I did not like Anaheim going into this year. I don't think they did anything in the offseason to make themselves better. They're an old team. I don't think they're an overly talented team. And I thought there were going to be major issues and things lacking with the Ducks. Then they got off to that really good start, and they were firmly in a playoff spot for a long time. I was starting to eat my words a little bit, and then they lost 12 games in a row, and they are moving down the standings back towards where I thought they would be. After Anaheim is Arizona. Arizona, I had them finishing second to last. They're third to last right now. Not that much of a difference. They've been about what I expected them to be. They're a 500 hockey team. Not awful, not dead last or anything like that, but nothing spectacular and not a playoff team. Arizona's pretty much what I thought they would be. Then we have Edmonton in second to last, who is a lot worse. I thought Edmonton would at least have somewhat of a bounce back year. Hasn't been the case at all. And last place belongs to the Kings, who I had finishing second, currently in last place, and look like they're definitely going to finish in last place. Something I just noticed, which is really interesting, is I picked in the Metro Division. Now, all right, the Atlantic, I picked Toronto to finish second, and they're in second right now. That looks good. But look at my other second place picks. My second place pick in the Metro is Philly. They're second to last in their division. My second place pick in the Central was St. Louis. They're second to last in their division. My second place pick in the Pacific was LA. They're last in their division. So apparently I'm very bad at picking who's going to finish second in each division. My first place picks, some have worked out, some haven't. At least, like the Sharks, they're not in first, but they're still good. They're in second. Winnipeg is in first. Tampa Bay is in first. Pittsburgh, they're at least a playoff team. So my first place picks haven't been way off. Second place picks have been. Overall, obviously, it's like most predictions. I got some right. I got some wrong. It's a pretty much a mixed bag. I think I got the Atlantic pretty well, and I got the Central pretty well. I was way off on the Metro, and I was way off on the Pacific. So it's really a tale of two different divisions. Couple of divisions I was pretty close. Couple of them I was just not even close on. So that's how my beginning of the season standings predictions stand up to the current standings. You win some, you lose some. I got, some were right, some were obvious choices that I got right. Some have been big-time surprises. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but that's where we sit right now. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.